A very good morning to you. Welcome to K24 This Morning. My name is Mungalambuvi.
A very good morning to you indeed. Karibu sana to another amazing episode of K24 This Morning. I am Shiku Kaitani.
Guys, are we not going to address the fact that Mbuvi just walked in with a pair of glasses? Are we not?
Let's
I was
address
telling
it,
you,
actually.
nobody is going to believe the fact that he cannot see because we're not used to seeing him like this.
No, it's just that a few weeks ago, I was
Right.
diagnosed with short-sightedness. So I need this to basically see you, Jeff.
Okay.
Looking amazing this
So the
morning.
entire year you'd pretend that you can see me, but you couldn't see past where she was.
Right.
Yeah, I was actually squinting just to see what you guys were saying.
So all the times you were telling me I look nice, it was all a lie. It was all a blah.
He's been living a lie. Wow.
No.
Okay, there you
No,
have
but
it. My name is Jeff Mote. Karibu sana to the show. It's all about the confessions happening today, as you can see on the show. After that, of course, since he's gotten that off his chest, we'll get into our newspaper review, look at the big stories of the day. Of course, still front and center as far as the news agenda is concerned is matters Nairobi County and what happens as we move forward with what seems to be a leadership gap as far as the county's leadership is concerned. Sonko's tough options as the news titan, says one of the paper's front pages right there. My panel fully in place to go through all the details this morning as we see where do we go from here. That's a key question that needs to be answered this morning. I have a managing editor of the People Daily, Ken Bosiro. Good morning. Our political analyst, Gabriel Muthuma, welcome back to the show.
Asante sana and good morning.
Good morning. Millie Luanga, governance expert, good morning. Good morning. And of course, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni and Ragwa MP and chair of the CIOC making time this morning. Good morning.
Morning.
So, of course, lots for us to discuss this morning. We'd like your views, of course, as well on this story that has taken a turn of events every single day. There's a new development on this particular story. We'll be discussing that and plenty more as we get into our newspaper review.
Right, then immediately after that, we shall get into something known as Interactive, an entire 30 minutes of nothing but the trending stories that have been happening in the last 24 days, 24 hours rather. It's going to be an interesting conversation.
Okay, and of course, as we gear up to make merry this holiday season, let's talk a little bit about responsible drinking and road safety, something that we cannot ignore this time of the year because we have to have this conversation. So many accidents caused because of drunken driving. So what do we need to know and, of course, understand about the risks?
Okay, fantastic stuff. A very apt conversation to have as we get into the festive season. Again, as we said, you can get us at K24 TV. You can also SMS us on 21222. Let us know how your morning is so far and how your week is faring along. We'll start off with our newspaper review, so that's where we start off and look at the big stories of the day. Good morning. Welcome back. Of course, this is K24 This Morning. We're looking at the big stories of the day. We want to look at the front pages of our dailies and then dig a bit deeper as to the stories therein. Starting off with the front page of the PD. Sonko's tough options as the news tightens. Embattled city boss spends night at Kenyatta National Hospital ahead of his expected appearance in court this morning for bail ruling. Looking at some of the choices that might be on the table as far as the governor is concerned. Resigning from office, nominating a deputy, going to the Supreme Court as well. Some of the options that he might have to choose from right there. You can get those details in your copy of your People Daily this morning. Also on the PD, matters cash. COG alarm as counties run out of cash. Standoff over pending bills and delayed disbursement threatens to ground operations in a number of devolved units. It's a story that you can get, of course, as well in your copy of your People Daily this morning. Front page of the Standard, moving away from politics, it's all about the economy and employment, where the jobs are. That's a question the Standard seeks to answer. Bureau of Statistics data reveals where and how Kenyans spend their money, trends in employment, and sectors thriving in an economy struggling with job cuts and austerity. Sectors with most employment opportunities between 2009-2018, manufacture of food products, plumbing, heat and air conditioning installation, data processing, hosting and related activities, general public administration, and water collection, treatment and supply, some of the sectors that have experienced a boom in those years. You can get more details of that, of course, in your copy of your Standard as well today. Front page of the Daily Nation, inside plan to replace Sonko. As the embattled Nairobi governor whiles away his time at the Kenyatta National Hospital, a succession battle is playing out in the corridors of power. Will Nairobi get a new leader? the apt question being asked right there. Strategy includes forcing governor to appoint a deputy and a by-election. Details of that particular story can be found, of course, in your copy of your Daily Nation as well this morning. Also, on the front page of the Daily Nation, after the car that plunged into the Likoni ferry a couple of days ago, suicide mission, the Daily Nation asks, marriage woes linked to man's death at Likoni. The family of a man who drove his car into the Likoni Channel, an apparent suicide mission, now says their kin was depressed after being battered by his wife. Details of that particular story, of course, also can be found in your copy of your Daily Nation this morning. The Star taking a turn for the rather dramatic headline right there. Sonko, I had HIV, chronic TB, and epileptic attacks. The governor saw affidavit telling a court to release him on those particular conditions. A quote from there, currently I am admitted at the prison hospital and my chances of survival are very minimal, hence seek to be released on medical grounds. And that's the angle the Star is taking this morning. And finally, the front page of the Business Daily, Kenyans earning more and living longer. According to a study from the UNDP, people spending more time in school, but gap between rich and poor still persists. Some of the findings, of course, in that particular study talking about life expectancy, years of schooling, of course, and of some other factors that they're looking at as far as the standard of living is concerned across the world. You can get those details in your copy of your Business Daily this morning. But let's get to the big story of the day, a story that has taken a different form every single day, and that is Nairobi County, its leadership, and how to move forward with a governor who's been in police custody since Friday, no deputy governor in place, and a speaker who may or may not take office depending on the mood of the assembly at the time. I'll start with Bosire on this particular issue. We've been talking about this for a very long time. When will the Nairobi governor, nominate a deputy? When will he, fill this particular vacuum? And now it seems like the chickens have come home to roost. Not only does he not have a deputy governor, but even the composition of his CECs still lacking. Was this the design at the end of the day, that if he wasn't there, we'd have a problem moving forward as a county?
I think, Jeff, the case of Nairobi is tragic. Some people want to call it unique. It's not unique. It's the guy. This is impunity. There are mechanisms to have done this, but I think he was using that element to blackmail everybody, that if you move me out, there will be a constitutional crisis in Nairobi. And for some time, he played along, and people thought that he was safe. But I think the problem occurred a long time ago. Let's go back to the inception. How did Sonko find himself in that position? Were people aware that this man had all those weaknesses, vulnerabilities that he needed to address? First of all, his integrity question. Comes out that the man was supposed not to be on the ballot in the first place. But using our political hand and influence, we got him on the ballot, knowing his erratic behavior and everything else. So the question is, when Jubilee gave him the ticket, what did they have in mind? Because whatever kind of buttresses they wanted to give him, giving him a technocrat, deputy governor, trying to get him somebody called a secretary to help him run the things. He was able to show them out of the position. And people just watched as he put Nairobians in a very, very difficult position. Even efforts to get a deputy for him, force him to get a deputy. He threw it right in our face and said, I'll give you this, whatever you want. So that each time he gave us an option, we said, okay, let's wait a little longer. But for him, it worked. But he came to the end of the road with this kind of thing. Because that drama of his had to end. And it goes back to our institutional frameworks. Which institution works? And if the institution, if the DCI says, I can't give this person, who is this that has powers to override it? Question, why did he blackmail us for so long? Who was he working? Who was his part of the cast of the blackmail? And why do we disregard our institutions that give us advice on the way forward? And Sonko's story is replicated all over the political landscape. And until we get to cleanse and that chapter 6 and give it the teeth to stop such characters, because they are, for me, the tragedy of our nation, the political nation. Because they'll do the wrong things. We want fidelity to keep to the law, but we can't keep it as long as we have the wrong people holding the levers of leadership. Right.
And there's something interesting you've pointed out there in terms of the institutions that also should be looked into. Gabriel, I'll come to you from the point of view that As he got to the ballot, he had to have all the requisite clearing from the EACC, from the DCI, from the KRA, no help loans, all these things, a certificate of good conduct. Yet you have a prosecutorial team that's talking about the fact that this man could be a flight risk because we saw what he did in Shimolatewa. Right. How does this come up now, yet he got a clean bill of health to vie as a governor? Who was sleeping on the job or what happened there?
First of all, let me be on the record to say this, and this is the legal fairness, all right? I think up until this point, Sonko is still said legally to be innocent until proven guilty, and that's a right he has. Same thing with Waitito, until proven guilty. Then I think we'll take the legal sphere. But as of now, they are still innocent until they are charged. Having said that, I think it's a good thing, the question that you've asked, but also we have to be mindful of the Chapter 6. I think this is where it makes everything, because Chapter 6 puts some and shares the blame with Sonko himself. Why did they sleep on the job? Why did they give all the paperwork that was required? How did he go through this? And how was he presented to the Mwananchi to vote? So it is a multifaceted deficit that we have all done, including ourselves, Jeff, the people who voted in Nairobi. We need to ask ourselves, why did we go ahead to have such a character? Now, remember, we have a mandate as the citizens to be informed of the choices that we are making. So from the onset, we have to realize that Sonko came through the pipes. How did he end up being the governor of the 6th largest city in Africa? Right. All right? A city that controls 60% of our GDP. How did we entrust him with such a high office? What were we expecting as Kenyans? Right. As Nairobians, what were we expecting? Because therein lies the problem. Was he the best man for the job? Were there other candidates who, that would have done a better job? All right? Why did we not see them? Why did we not bring them in to the sphere of leadership? What were we afraid of? All right? Or have our chickens come home to roost? It's not the other way around. Most of the time we are looking at Sonko himself, but we are not, asking ourselves how he got there. We put him there. So we must go back to realize the mistake that we did. Right. I know it was carried yesterday, the end of an era, but that's not it. Because if today all things were to be equal, would we repeat the same mistake again? Right. Should Sonko go through all this and wade out and come out clear, come 2022, would we vote him back again? Half of the time, I believe we would. So the question is, as much as we're talking about having Chapter 6 or realize Chapter 6, it is good probably those institutions can deter people with criminal records and criminal backgrounds and what have you not to be in office, but should they be able to meander that process, which half of the time has proved itself to be a corrupt process? Because really, let's face it, how did that person get a certificate of good conduct with all that he has had? How did he pass the EACC? Even Jubilee itself, how did he go through the party nomination? Right. Having all this. So, like I told you, it's a multifaceted deficit that should have been able, the system should have been able to take care of itself before we were presented with Sonko as an ideal candidate running for the gubernatorial seat for Nairobi. So, I think as much as we want to, to talk about the shenanigans of Sonko, we have to realize that we had a stake in this game. We are part owners of this problem. And I believe if we do not change, if we don't become more edified about the leaders that we choose, we have a skin in the game.
And it's interesting you say that, because even as you talk about the fact that how did we get him, how did he get into office, why did we vote for him? Yes. Let's not forget the fact that as he came, he had formed himself and fashioned himself as a person who's a hustler like one of you, coming from the ground up and understands your problem because he's been there, he's been in your industries, he's fought for you and fashioned himself to feel like I'm one of you, I'm the hustler.
Jeff, Jeff, when you're part of the game, all I need to do to a population that is not edified, I need to play the part, act the part, be the part, even if I'm a well-dressed dummy. If I play my game right, you fall for me. And that is a politician's greatest strength, playing you, right? But the thing is, if that was true, he was part of what you would call part of, us. or part of the common mwananchi. The common mwananchi is still suffering. Drugs in hospitals are still going missing. Is Nairobi the way you'd have imagined? Have we progressed or have we not progressed? All right? Is Nairobi clean? Everything Sonko said he would do, has he done? All right? Was this city too big for him? All right? Economically, does he have the fortitude of what it takes for him to run this city? Those are some of the questions we need to be asking ourselves. Okay. And to me, from where it stands, he needed a lot of help. And the fact that he did not trust anybody. You see, when you're in command of a city like Nairobi, the first thing you need a great team to assist you. This is not a one-man show. And probably this is something that Sonko forgot. You need a team that is able to help you manage and run a complex city like Nairobi. But when you've created mistrust, you don't trust anybody. You are recording everyone. You know, you are only surrounded by people who will just stretch their hands. Niongeze tafadhali. My friend, that will never work.
Millie, we're looking at a scenario where let's even remove Sonko from this particular question and not bring it down to the governor, but look at all our political leadership right now in Chapter 6 of this constitution that we have. Can you legalize integrity? Can you legalize morality? How do you put people to a higher standard other than asking for certificates of help and KRA and all these things? Because they all present that, but what we see on the other side doesn't reflect what we are looking for from Chapter 6.
True, but we have had examples, working examples in this country. Unfortunately, there's a song, kuna watu na kuna viatu, you know. That's the unfortunate bit of it, because at one point I think we started off quite well. We removed a deputy CJ simply because we thought her behavior was unpalatable. And we said she must go home. And then subsequent to that, we have allowed people to do everything. Before even we removed, I think it was before we removed the DCJ, we had instances where ministers, I remember Kiraitu stepping aside, and he said he had to do it because he was facing even questions from his own children. I remember him writing those articles, and he became very religious and went through a certain phase. We also had, I can't remember who else now off the top of my head, but I know we've had examples. We even had examples of a CJ, Willie Mutunga, who said it is unconscionable for me to continue to sit here when I know that we need someone in place, in preparation, early enough time. We've had good examples. But unfortunately, those few examples, we don't hype them so much so that people retain that information in their mind. We downplay it, and we would rather focus on the unfortunate stories of Sonko. And Sonko has already created a number of other mini Sonkos. Right. Look at the success of Sonko. Created, I believe, somebody like Babu Wino, who we all knew is a Mheshimiwa now, and he was a student leader before that, and there was a lot of concern from the university management then, but he moved on and said, watch a university, I will go and now go and lead the people. Right. And he's leading the people, and we have seen that style of leadership being copied by many of the young leaders who are coming up. So I'm hoping that this process is going to be able to give an example for young leaders so that they ape. We have other leaders that they can ape and try to be like, and not necessarily leaders that when things happen, we are put to question and we start questioning ourselves. Right, and
it's interesting you mentioned Honorable Babu Wino, because he has stated his intention to vie for governorship come 2022 of Nairobi City, so we'll see how that turns out.
And you've had many people say that if Sonko could do it, don't be surprised to see Babu
doing it as well.
Yes.
Honorable Kioni, I'll come to you because as a member of the Jubilee Party, there are very many questions being asked as to, even in terms of how he got this particular ticket, with all the blemishes that might have been there in the past, talks of him probably being able to arm twist the party during the nomination. But that as it may, being governor, were there not strong enough party mechanisms to at least ensure if it's a deputy governor, they can do that, make sure the county is being run as is? Because it seemed like he was a power unto himself from the perception that the public got.
This is a very, I don't know whether we are really at the point where we really have the guts to discuss this issue. But because it's actually a sad time for us as a country, it takes us back to 2010, 2011, 2013. And perhaps even 2017, where we had the statement from the CJ, which I think was numbers don't matter. And we are here because, or we are where we are because we made numbers matter more than what they mattered for. And I think I totally agree with the way this issue had been captured by my colleague here. You see, I think if you address yourself to this issue, I remember at one point we were with now the President of the Republic of Kenya. That was before 2013, and we were in Bungoma. And when we were in Bungoma, it was, that time the President has not even made up his mind he was going to run for the presidency in 2013. It was an issue, we had the issue of ICC on our side. And the Sonko then, I don't know whether we were calling him Sonko or whatever his name was. You know, even now with these too many alliances, you don't even know what to call him. And I remember asking the now president, because we were in the same car, myself, Sonko, him, and the driver. And I asked the president then, what do we think of this emerging scenario in the country, where we have people of very questionable backgrounds, mobilizing more than any other sensible person can mobilize. And without the details, it was clear to us that we are in a very, very precarious situation as people who know where we want to go. But before you get there, you have masses here who are refusing to reason with you, and they want to reason with those whom they think are best portraying what they stand for. And I think it is a transition period that we are in the country. And I can tell you from 2013 or 2012 up to where we are, it is a period that mattered less what you stood for. It is a question of, do you have numbers behind you? Right. Can you be able to mobilize people and bring down a wall, whether it is done lightly or not? Right. And I think we need to accept as a country, and I think we need to stand with the president, because I think he's alone in this. I said this 2 days ago, and I want to say it again. He is alone in this. He got into it, and he's been in it alone. And we need to start, those of us who think that there's a better Kenya that is out there, not what is being brought out by the Sonkos, and I must say this with all due respect, with the Waititos, and a couple of other governors that we have in place. She has mentioned a number of members of parliament, and she has said Mheshimiwas. I don't know when you become a Mheshimiwa. These are terms that have also completely been misused. I prefer being called by my names. I am happy if you don't assign those titles to me, because they actually stand for the wrong thing. We have a heap of us who have been given positions of leadership, not because we stand for anything, but because we stand for the wrong things. Right. We mobilize people for the wrong cause. We can mobilize people because we can sort better. We can mobilize people because we can bang doors, box tarmac. You know, you stand for nothing. I was a bit worried when my colleague here was trying to look for the reasons, asking us, did we think he was going to manage? I mean, it has never been in anybody's mind that Sonko has the capacity to manage even a bus stop.
And as we say,
I mean, it has never, I don't know who ever thought that he was going to manage. And I'm sure even the people who voted for him did not expect him to manage anything.
So was it the mere fact
so it is really, it is just, it was a question of mobilizing numbers to stand against the law. Mobilizing numbers to stand against what is right. Mobilizing numbers to come before you as the president and say, if you don't play my game, I will deny you numbers to State House. Blackmail. Yeah. It's actually mobilizing numbers to blackmail the system, to blackmail the legal. And that has worked.
And that's a very tricky
That's
scenario.
why I'm saying that we all must realize that this is the most important thing that we need to do as a country. And this is why we even need to rally behind the BBI. Because in the BBI, I've read it, it is actually bringing out the issues of Chapter 6 to the fore and saying, forget about going to a court of law. If you are charged, if there is thought that you have resources have been mismanaged, under your watch, you need to step aside and allow the process to go on. And you need to be that person who owns up to it and say, this has happened when I was in office, like Mukaba did in Tanzania. Prisoners escaped from prison, and as a minister, he said, I was the minister in charge. Maybe he didn't even know where the prison was, but they escaped when he was the minister in charge of prison, and he had to step aside. Okay. That is what BBI is telling us to do. If we allow ourselves to that level, the kind of things that we are seeing in this country, I am telling you, even economic growth will fight this space. But we have readers all over. Like now, I don't understand why, if your governor has been he has been charged in an offense in court, he's been told to step aside by the courts, and you seated as MCAs, you still find it not necessary for him to be, you cannot bring yourself to the point of just impeaching him quickly so that the systems run. That's where the problem is.
Okay, I want us to take a short break at that particular point as we come back. As spanner in the works right there, because as they know, politics is a game of numbers. So how do you deal with that particular scenario? Because at the end of the day, that is the common denominator when it comes to politics. Who can you influence and how many of them can you? 10 seconds, Bosiri, before we get into the break.
What is worrying? These people have the critical masses. Does that speak to our own political ethos, our own hope, and what we want to do as a country?
Right.
It is something that we have to step back and find. Do we have to go down and rot and regrow as a country?
And 2 seconds. We need to strengthen the institution. IEBC, political parties, tribunal, political parties, so that we sieve these people at the very beginning.
Okay. We'll be coming and talking about more of that, of course, after the break. You want your views as well at K24 TV. You can also SMS us on 21222. We are back with more after the break.